All right, friends, I am here with my new friend, Toni Collier. I am so happy to finally get to meet you and have you on the show. Welcome to Girls Night.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
Tell us, for women who haven't gotten to meet you, tell us who you are, what you do, and a fun fact about yourself.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, my name's Toni Collier. One of the greatest things about me is that I'm from Texas, best state in the world. Okay, come on, somebody. We're a little crazy, but I love it so much. I've kind of coined this phrase, hope coach, because that's kind of like my stilo. I like to help people find hope, and not just like regular hope, okay, but like hope out of the midst of brokenness and trauma and pain and clawing your way out of valleys and onto mountaintops, like that kind of hope. And fun fact about myself, okay, I graduated high school at 16 and I graduated college at 19. So I think that's kind of fun, but I have another one. I'm going to do two. I'm going to cheat. Okay, great.
Yep, you can do it.
And this is a fun one too. I'm making it pop. I am obsessed with food. Like, I think that if ministry doesn't work out for some reason, okay, I'm going to be a food blogger. I mean, 100%. I have good eats lists. I'm ready. I have an idea. I have a concept and a strategy. And really, I want to be a foodie. Honestly, if the Lord didn't call me to it, I'd be a foodie. Little blogger.
We are the same person.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a cook.
No.
I don't like cooking.
Nope.
Love eating what other people make.
This is what I'm trying to say, okay? Notice you didn't say I didn't say I like to cook. I didn't say I'm good at cooking. No.
Well, I thought that you were going to say like, yeah, I'd be a chef or something. But when you said food blogger, I'm like, that's like bucket list.
100%.
Like maybe someone will be like, hey, you're good at podcasting about nothing related to food. Maybe you should host a show on the Food Channel.
This is what I'm trying to say. I want the Food Network to call me is all I'm going to say, okay?
We could totally tandem this. Like, follow us around. We'll find good food. Yeah.
Listen to me. We don't have the opportunity and the time right now, but one day I will share with you my plan and you can be a part of it. And I just want to put that out there. So there you go.
Okay. All right. And if anyone from Travel Network is listening, then or the Food Network, call us. We are your girls.
Call us.
That is so amazing. I love this so much. We were just talking about Atlanta and that we have that as a place in common.
Yeah.
What is your favorite restaurant in Atlanta? And I'm going to ask about Nashville too, because you said that you're here a lot.
Oh, that's a hard one. That is a hard one because it goes in categories. But I would say when it comes to like sushi, there's this place called Umi in Atlanta, UMI. Top notch situation. Best steak, Oak Steakhouse. And I will stop there because I can go for a little while. So that's Atlanta. If you're listening, okay? Sushi, steak, go ahead and go. Nashville, I'm going to go lunch option, a little lighter. I really do love Hattie B's. I do.
Okay.
Hattie B's chicken. It's probably not the most authentic Nashville, but darn it, it is good. And I have stood in that line in the hot Nashville sun and sacrificed for some Hattie B's chicken. Okay?
Yep.
Justin Timberlake's restaurant's pretty cool too, but okay, that's it.
What's Justin Timberlake's restaurant?
I forgot what it's called. That's why I just had to say Justin Timberlake's restaurant.
Oh my gosh. All right. We're all going to Google.
I'll email it to you afterwards, okay?
Okay. All right. Big fan of him. Can't believe I didn't know he had a restaurant.
Yes, girl.
All right. Well, let's talk about some other things.
Right.
You have a new book. And it's called Brave Enough to Be Broken, How to Embrace Your Pain and Discover Hope and Healing. Can you tell us more about it?
Man, a lot of books, I think, are about people's stories. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But one of the things I've always said is that I don't believe that my story is powerful enough to change the lie that our brokenness discounts us. And so when I wrote this book, I wanted to make sure that it had a little bit of my story in it, from abuse from my childhood traumas, parentified child syndrome, which, it's all in the book, battling with addictions. All of these different things that are a part of my story, but it also includes a roadmap. And that roadmap talks all around healing in the midst of brokenness. I think one of the things that hurt the most is when I was 25 years old and I'd been through divorce and a toxic and abusive marriage and spiritual manipulation at my church and eating disorder and all the addiction. I didn't have any sort of roadmap to figure out, like, how do you actually heal? Like, What does it look like to transition toxic community out of your life and go after real, authentic, safe community? What does it look like to find counseling? Like, how do you find counseling? Like, what if you're in college? Like, what does counseling look like then? How much does it cost? Is it covered by my insurance? What does it look like to have like a real, authentic relationship with Christ? Not to be like a fan, but an actual follower of Christ. And all those things I just had to stumble into. And thankfully, with good community and mentors and people that came into my life, I found those things out. But then I said, man, I really just want to like create a seamless roadmap for other women to find healing a little bit easier. And that's what Brave Enough to Be Broken is all about. It's a roadmap to healing and wholeness. And it starts with embracing pain, which is not fun, but it
Yeah, I was gonna
works.
say boo, but yeah.
Boo.
Boo, but important.
Yeah.
Important. Okay, so I mean, you kind of gave us like a really brief overview, but
Yeah.
I would just love to hear a little bit more about your story. And also Broken Crayons Don't Color. Can you, like, for women who don't know what that is, like, or it's don't color, can't color.
No,
It's
you
can't
got
color.
it right the first time. You don't doubt yourself, Beth, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Man, so many things. So, born in Houston, Texas. Just want to put that out there one more time. Texas all day. I was born in a blended family with my parents, and one of the things that's pretty unique about my childhood is that my mom got really sick growing up. So she had a massive stroke, paralyzed, and my dad had to work a whole bunch. We didn't have a lot of finances, so my dad just had to work. It kind of broke up our family a little bit, and I ended up taking care of my mom at 8 years old, driving her around to appointments at 12 years old, helping her with her medicine. And that's where the parentified child syndrome comes to play. I mean, naturally, we kind of see like our lives progress with our parents, for those of us that have them, in a way that says like, you know, in our late 40s or 50s is when we kind of start taking care of our parents. Well, that happened a little bit early for me. I took care of my mom when I was 8 and all throughout middle school and high school. And so I grew up real fast, and I grew up without nurturing and without the awe and wonder of a beautiful childhood that was protected and steered. And so then I got a little wild, okay? At 13, I lost my virginity, started sneaking out of the house with an older guy, started drinking alcohol to numb the pain, started smoking weed and popping X and all the things. I was twerking in the club and at people's houses. It was wild. And at 16, I left my parents' house and put myself through college and just kept numbing with weed and with alcohol, and didn't really know God. Kind of was like a fan. We went to a Catholic church. It was just kind of like, yeah, it's pretty cool, whatever. And then messed around and ended up in Georgia marrying someone after 3 months of knowing them. Little wild, okay. Moved to Georgia 3 months after knowing this guy and got married, and it ended up being real toxic and hard. And in the midst of that, at 21, I visited a church and messed around and got saved. And I had a mentor come into my life and was like, "You a little crazy, okay? And I don't know if this is a good choice, but I think that we would love to have you volunteer with the youth." And because I was so crazy, the youth fell in love with me. They were like, "Yep, we like this girl. She a little wild. She kind of curses a little bit. She needs to get her life together, but we love her." Okay. And in the process of volunteering with these students, it changed my life. I wanted to live a better life. I wanted to be closer to Jesus. And this mentor gave me reps with speaking, helped me go through ministry school. I got ordained, which was super nuts. And, you know, really just started in full-time ministry. And the issue at that point was that I was kind of living this double life where there was toxicity and hurt and abuse at home, and I was standing on stages pretending, right? Pretending that everything was fine, that I was all good and life was good. And I think I just got tired of living in a shame bubble, and I ended up getting a divorce. I had a daughter at the time, and we decided that it just wasn't safe anymore for her and for me. So went through the divorce, transitioned out of the church, and thought that my life was completely over, that divorce was too much, that my past was too much, and that I shouldn't be in ministry anymore. And that's kind of when Broken Crayons Still Color came to be. I preached a message at this middle school about broken crayons still coloring, that God still can use us for beautiful things, even in the midst of our brokenness. And people were like, "Oh, snap. Like, we resonate with that." This was before like Brene Brown, and people were like, "No more shame. Trauma can't have my life anymore." And people were like, "Man, this is a good message. Like, this, people need to hear this." And so I just kept going and started getting opportunities and met my now husband, who was already in ministry, super saved. Okay. I'm still like making fun of him for getting with a wild girl like me. And he's a civilized one in the marriage. But he absolutely changed my life. He ended up paying for counseling for me and helping me and my daughter. And he's a huge part of my redemption story. And here I am now, man, writing a book about it,
Oh
preaching and
my.
teaching and helping other women. Broken Crayons Still Color, the organization, we help women process through trauma and pain and get to hope. And it's beautiful. We have courses and devotionals and all the things.
I love everything about that. I love that so much. Um, you know, there are so many things, there's so many things that I think we need to hear when we're in the thick of like a really
Yeah,
hard season, when we've made really big mistakes or done things that we're not proud of, or that
yeah,
we're living in a life that is full of pain or brokenness or
yeah.
trauma. And so I have just like 1,000 questions of
Okay.
things that I know you talk about a
Ready?
lot. Um, just for women who are trying to figure a way out of
Yeah.
all of this. Okay, so the first one is, one of the things I know you talk about is that there's this like false narrative that
Mhm.
perfection is the gatekeeper to success.
Mm,
Talk to me more about this. Like, women are
yeah.
sitting here thinking, I can't get to where I want to go because of
Yeah.
where I've been.
Yeah. 100%. I think that one of the greatest schemes of the enemy, of the devil, of Satan, however you want to call him, is for us to think that having it all together, being perfect, is the way for us to have success, is the way for us to have everything we want in life. And when you start to kind of like dissect the Bible and these teachings, you start looking at people like Paul, who was nuts. Okay. The Apostle Paul in the Bible, just so crazy. Christian bully, what, sentencing people to death for believing in Jesus, and messed around and had this moment where God was like, hey, I want to use you to spread the gospel. And Paul's like, wait, bro, do you know who I am? Like, do you know that this is like the antithesis of who I actually am? And God's like, yeah, I want to use that too. And it's interesting because we forget that, again, we're talking about this Christian bully in the Bible, and God literally saying, I want to use the very thing that defines you as someone who doesn't believe in me, as someone who's absolutely broken. Some people would call Paul a Christian bully, right? Like, he was just this guy that was completely broken. And God was like, I still want to use you in that. As a matter of fact, it's where I do my best work. And in Second Corinthians chapter 12, Paul literally talks about this idea of having like a thorn in his side. He says to the church in Corinth, he goes, listen, if anyone should be prideful, it should be me. Like, I'm over here doing all the gospel things. I'm starving on boats. I'm not eating for days and days. I am like ride or die Christian. But really, like, I have this thorn in my side. And it reminds me of my imperfection. And here's what God says to me about that. He says that his grace is sufficient for me, and his power is made perfect in weakness. Not Instagram followers, not likes, not how we can draw our eyebrows on and look like sisters and not cousins, okay? Not our filters, because I love a good filter. Hello, somebody. But in our weakness, like, that's the very thing that, or the very place that God uses and does his best work in. His power is made perfect in our weakness. And the part of the scripture that we don't love is the second part, where Paul says, therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power will rest on me. We
Yeah.
don't want to be broken. We don't
Mhm.
want that. But that is actually where God does his best work, because it's in our surrender when we come to him that he says, oh, I got you. I'm the player on the sidelines of your life saying, put me in, coach. I've got some power for you. Let me show you what I have for you. And that's my prayer. I'm like, that's my prayer. I'm like, I was tired of trying to be perfect. It was exhausting. It was exhausting trying to pretend.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, no, I'm freaking nuts. I'm crazy and I'm wild and I'm loud and I probably shouldn't even be here. But God is using me. And that's like, it's the best thing. It's the best thing.
I love that so much, because I think if we can look at what's happening like through us and go, well, I did that. You know,
It's,
like this is because I'm good. This is because I
mhm.
tried really hard. This is because I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Well, then it's like the credit goes to us.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can say, like, God is working despite me, like I'm here
Yeah.
and like, but I'm just the conduit.
Yeah.
And then he gets all the credit.
That's
And
right. And that's the good
I, I
stuff.
also I also think that like, you know, and we talk about this a lot here, that it's when we go through something hard, we become it's like our mess becomes our message. You know, the things that we go through,
Yeah.
that experience transforms us into really the perfect person to walk someone else through that thing.
Yeah. That's
And so it's
good.
like if you don't ever those places end up being really only because of God's redemption,
Mhm.
end up being the strongest, like our strongest places.
Yeah. It's beautiful because, I mean, first of all, like, how easy is it to like super love the girl that like is perfect and always shows up? I feel like we have like a person like that in our lives that we think is so perfect. It's like the girl that brings the best charcuterie. She's like super kind. She's like a
Ooh.
Teletubby Care Bear type situation. Like,
Mhm.
it's so easy to love those types of people. But when someone looks at you and knows everything you've been through, knows what you struggle with, and says, hey, you too are still worthy of love and belonging, gosh, it means so much more. It means so much more when it's like, Toni, I know that you battle with pride. I know that you have been abused. I know that you have battled with pornography. You've battled with addiction. I know those things about you, but you are still worthy. Oh man. It's like, oh, snap. Like, it makes you just want to run through a freaking wall. You mean to tell me that all the things that I've done, with everything that I've been through, with everything that I've really like failed at, I can still be used? Oh, freak. Like, let's go. Put me on the bus. I'm ready, coach. Like, I'm so in. Those are the best stories, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that's just such proof. You know,
Yeah.
it's really easy to sit in the audience and watch someone on stage who looks perfect and think,
Yeah.
well, like they can do this, but that's because
Right.
they're perfect. I can't.
Right.
But every time we get to stand up and go, whoa, I'm such a mess, but thank God he's using me anyway.
Aw.
Like
Yeah.
that's a reminder that broken crayons still color.
You better do that. That was good. That was a good one. That was a good one.
um, so I know that that's like one piece of it. You
Yeah.
know, knowing that our the hard like you know whatever fits in this category, but the hard things in our life don't
Yeah.
disqualify us,
Yeah.
but we also still have to work through them. And so I was going to ask you this kind of more towards the end, but I want to ask you this
Let's
first.
do it.
With the idea that our mess can become our message, I think that there's this tendency towards maybe wanting to
Mm.
like share too soon
Oh,
or like help in if we've been through something, you know, to rush immediately back in and go, okay,
yeah.
well, let me help other women who are going through this.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not the best way. Can
Yeah.
you talk to us about that?
Yeah. I think, what I want to say is don't get it twisted. Like, we can find Christ's power and love and rest in our brokenness, but we cannot lead from it. We have to lead from our healing. That's a very different ball game out here. We have seen people that just leak all over the internet. You getting on live, you talking about your boyfriend and broke up with you. It's just crazy. And you are not giving anyone hope. You are not giving
Mm.
anyone hope. People are walking away from your presence, from your word, probably really sorrowful. But that's because our brokenness needs to be held in the hands of safe, healing places first. And then we cultivate hope from that place and we can for ourselves, and then we can give hope off for others. And that's one of the things I had to learn early on as a young leader. It's you just don't lead from your brokenness. You lead from hope. You lead from healing. And you got to go heal that thing before you start to talk about it. And I will say this too, 1 year of counseling isn't just going to fix everything magically and give you the authority to speak on everything you've been through. For example, I healed a lot of my daddy wounds very early on, a lot of insecurity very early on, but I have some motherhood wounds that I'm still processing through this year. And I made a commitment this year to process through it. And it's why oftentimes people don't hear me talk about my mom a whole bunch from the platform. the truth is, there are parts of me that have healed, and I now have the authority to speak into on my platforms. And there's parts of me that I don't. And I just need to sit down and be quiet. Me and my husband say all the time, it's like, we 6 years into this marriage game. We ain't ready yet. Don't ask us for no marriage advice. Okay. We still learning
Mhm.
out here. All right. And we just we just have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with it, not only for our audience, but for us too. Because we can end up doing more damage to ourselves if we prematurely try to lead out of our brokenness. Then we mess around and just be looking crazy out here. So crazy.
I I love that so much because, I was just talking to someone about this, that there are places of that, like, I very rarely share things in the moment
Yep.
that I'm going through. Like, maybe there are some people who, from a really healthy place, can, take something that they're going through and share something powerful that helps other people on social media
Yeah.
about that thing, like in real time. I don't have
That's not
that.
me.
Like,
That ain't
one,
us, guys. Okay.
like, in the moment, I'm just trying to survive it.
Yeah.
So, like, I
That's
can't
good.
live tweet my way through it.
That's
And then
good.
also, I have no idea, like, what to say about this. I haven't learned the lesson yet. And so I can't share it with anyone else. Like, I'm
That's
still
so
in
good.
school. Um,
It's cool.
the same thing. We have been married for 8 years now. And we definitely had some people ask us about marriage, like, very early on. We're like, there is no way. Like,
Mm-mm.
both of our parents have almost been married for 40 years. And we're like, we can hear them like laughing at us, being like, you can't talk about this yet. And it's only this year that we've started talking about like engagement
Mhm.
and like the transition into marriage. But I'm
Yeah,
like, it's just there. I can't talk about
that's it.
anything past that because we're just not there yet. We're just
Listen.
still learning.
It's real out here. It's so,
Yeah.
so real. And I'm sure you get this all the time. People probably do reach out because they see this marriage and they're like, I want that. But what they don't probably see is the work that y'all are putting into making this marriage well, into 8 years, into making it to 8 years, which, I mean, statistically, that's a freaking miracle right now.
Mm.
People are throwing in the towel before 3 years now, which is crazy. And that number's just backing up. I think people just want quick fixes and they're like, tell me how to do this. I want to know. And it's like, no, there's some work, there's some pruning, there's some fruit that needs to come from this before I give that to you. But, we just don't want to wait. We don't
It's
want to.
hard. I know. Well, okay, so you mentioned therapy, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad you did because, I mean, we talk about therapy so much here on the show because I love it so much. But I know that you said, like, the process of how do I even find a person and like, do I need therapy and would this
Mhm.
be helpful? And talk to me about like that as part of the healing journey, of
Yeah,
part of the like doing the work process.
absolutely. Here's the truth, man. As cliche as it sounds, like we hire professionals for almost every other area in our life. We hire professionals to do our nails and toes, to get them little nasty, whatever them things are called off of the edge of our toes, of our feet. We get pedicures. We
Calluses. Yep.
there it is, calluses. We hire people, fitness professionals, to make sure that we stay fit, or we go to the gym, or we watch a YouTube video. We hire professionals to do our hair and our lashes, and I mean, all these different things. We want someone to shout out to the foodies to cook for us. We want to go to restaurants. But for some reason, when it comes to our mental health and our emotions, we want to handle that ourselves when there are professionals out there that have actually studied the brain, studied how they interconnect through our neurons with our emotions that lead to our thoughts and our actions, and they're available to us. And I think that the first thing we have to get through is the stigma. Because I know my family personally, I mean, when I told them I was going to counseling, they were like, are you sick? Is something wrong? I'm like, guys, I mean, yeah, we're all kind of sick, but I want to sit down and talk to them. I want to process through this stuff.
Yeah.
And we have to get rid of the stigma that counseling is the emergency room. Because really it's not. Counseling's not the emergency room. Counseling is the primary care doctor going for your checkup. It's a safe space for us to enter into the hard work. And for some of us who have trauma and pain in our past, sometimes the counseling office ends up being the emergency room, ends up having to
Mhm.
process through all the things that we've been through and take some more extreme measures like EMDR, which is trauma treatment, and all these different things. But the first initial steps is not that. I think the second thing I want to say too is that your first choice in counseling may not be the best choice. I've gone through 4 different counselors. I've dated a few different counselors, not dated for real, y'all, okay? Happily married, hello somebody. But I've, dated before I married, quote unquote, counselors to see if they were a good fit for me. Just because the first one isn't a good fit, I mean, come on, there's somebody listening to this. You done went through about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boyfriends before you met your husband, okay? We have to be open to doing the same thing with our counselors. Hey, this wasn't a good fit for me. Let me try again. And I would say the last thing is that counselors do not do your work. They help you find out what work you need to do. Counseling is about getting into the door, processing through the things that you need to process with a guide, and then going to do your work. I have not left a counseling session without something to do, without something to think about, pray about, process through, ask my parents about. Counseling is work. Just like going to the gym is work, but it's a conditioning of your mind and your emotions. And I don't think it ever ends. I'm going to be in counseling until I leave this earth, period. Not because I've been through a whole bunch, but because life sucks, y'all. Okay. Okay. Like, I mean, we just went through a global pandemic. We went through civil unrest in 2020. We went through political divisiveness. Got monkeypox popping up all over the place. Like, life in general sucks and it weighs on us. And we need professionals in every aspect of our life to help us process through that and do it really well.
I love that
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know you talk about is like when we are broken in some way, that it just like spreads out into the rest of our life. And so I want to hear you talk about that, because that's sort of like the opposite of doing the work and getting the help and like, being proactive about our healing. Like the opposite is, what does that look like?
The opposite is leaking. Our brokenness, when it goes untreated and unhealed, leaks. And it doesn't just leak in one area, it leaks in all of them. If you are an unhealthy person, you're going to be an unhealthy wife and mother and friend and daughter and coworker even. We cannot keep our brokenness and our trauma and our pain isolated. It will inevitably leak. It's the reason why when our boss calls us into the office, for some of us, we get a little anxious because something in our past triggers in us and says, I'm going to lose my job. I'm not doing the best that I can do. There's a reason why that brand new boyfriend, when they bring up something that you've done wrong, you start to feel betrayed or abandoned. There's a reason why these different areas of your life are being triggered. It's because it's coming from a source, from a place. And I know this, and I'm not preaching at you. I'm telling you what I went through. When I was in a really toxic marriage, I wasn't just an unhealthy wife, but I became an unhealthy mother. I couldn't mother my daughter well. And her life and the health that came with her name and her life, it was important to me. And so I had to solve the root. Unfortunately for me, that meant getting divorced. And then I had to go to counseling, because leaving a situation does not necessarily mean you're healed from a situation. You got to go get your work done. And so I had to go to counseling. And the truth is, I am a better mom for it. I am a better wife for it. I get the opportunity to be married again, remarried. I would have jumped into this marriage and still been the same unhealthy, bitter, scared, anxiety-ridden person that I was before I got in it. Just because I got into a good new thing does not mean that I am healthy within the goodness. And so we got to do our work. We got to do our work so we don't leak. And that's that.
I love that so much. That's just such a good way of putting it. Like, if you're an unhealthy person, you are an unhealthy fill in the blank of all these other things.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
So I know that your new book is a roadmap through healing. We've talked about therapy. What are some of the other things that we can be doing and putting into place to be able to walk through this stuff so that we aren't carrying this stuff with us forever?
Yep. In the book, we talk about gratitude. And, it's such like a simple thing, but Lisa Harper does this thing every single day. She talks about getting up in the morning and really spitting out, like shooting out into the environment, the atmosphere, the things that she's grateful for. And the reason why that helps, first of all, there's so many psychological things, but the reason why it's important to healing and brokenness is because when you begin to heal, you begin to realize that healing is painful. And that's why the subtitle of the book is How to Embrace Your Pain and Discover Hope and Healing. You have to embrace the pain first. And so sometimes in those painful moments when we think about road mapping through our past and life and going back into our childhood and starting to identify the things that broke us, it gets really painful and it feels crazy because it's not linear. And so if you begin to practice gratitude, it makes that painful healing process that much easier. I remember there were nights when I was curled up in a ball at the bottom of the stairs, pleading for God to take my anxiety away so I could sleep. And I would get maybe 3 or 4 hours. And I remember one time my husband ordered me a weighted blanket. Those were like when weighted blankets first started coming out. And I was like, okay, cool, cool, cool. I put that thing on and Lord, I probably drooled for the first time in my life. It was amazing. It helped so much with the anxiety. Well, I remember the next morning getting up and still feeling, gosh, I get emotional about this, mad that I still woke up with anxiety, with that shaky, weary feeling. But then what helps in those moments is saying, but I'm really grateful for whatever freaking human being created the weighted blanket. Because for the first time in a long time, I got more than 5 hours of sleep last night. It sucks. I want to be like the people that get 8 hours of sleep, the people that don't wake up and think the world is falling apart and battle with anxiety. Like, that's what I desire. But if I just took a moment to say, God, I'm just really, really grateful that last night for the first time I got rest. Gratitude gives us hope when all else seems like it's dark and broken and sucky. When we practice gratitude, man, we just get hope and goodness that much easier. That's one of the things in the book. That's like an example of, man, like there are things that we can do to make the healing process just that much more easier. The other, I would say the second one that I really love, and I won't give it all to you, is the toxic community chapter. There's a chapter on how to transition toxic community, but then also how to cultivate new healthy community. I remember praying for friends, and that sounds desperate and kind of lame, but I remember saying, Lord, can you just obviously these other friends just didn't work out too well. They were not healthy for me. I was not in healthy environments. Can you just please give me new friends that I can relate to, that could see me, that could be safe places for me? Like, please help me. And I remember literally one by one, the Lord bringing these friends into my life and showing me where to put them because I'm an extrovert and everybody's my friend. Okay. That's the problem. All right. And so I bring all these people into my most intimate parts, and then I end up getting hurt by them, not because they're horrible people, but because they were not created to be in my most intimate spaces. And they may not be in a season where they can even hold what I have, what I'm going through. And so in the book, we also talk about circles, where to put people in your life so that you can have really healthy, flourishing, beautiful, safe spaces, because we need community to heal. Absolutely. So those are just two parts.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Why tell me a little bit more about the toxic
Mm.
community and like identifying it and then also why it's important. Like why I don't know what like verb you'd use there, but
Transition.
why
How to transition them out.
transitioning them out is essential to the healing process.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys remember, for some of you that are just familiar with some things from the Bible, when um when Jesus was getting ready to die and the disciples just did not want him to. Like, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? No, you're the Messiah. Like, you're the savior of the world. And he was like, hey, chill out. Like, I rebuke you because I have a plan. God has a plan. I have to go and do this. Oftentimes, it's not even about people that are just like extremely toxic. Like, we can use that word and we can really harm people with the label toxic. But sometimes their actions are toxic for us. The reason why Jesus needed to rebuke that is because he needed the grit and the endurance that he needed to go and fulfill what he had at the cross for us, for all of us. And it was new life and redemption and freedom. For some of us, there are people in our lives that hinder our dreams by the things they say. Oh no, that idea is impossible. No, I mean, I just don't know. They hinder our relationships by the things they say. Oh, girl, you attract the same type of men. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to work out for you. They speak things over you that they don't mean anything ill by it. But what they say can be really toxic for you in this environment. I remember I had friends that was like, girl, I know you're battling with anxiety, but just like smoke something, just drink something. The truth is that was toxic for me because if I didn't allow myself to be anxious, I would also not allow myself to sit in a counseling office and get healed or get antidotes and strategies to help with my anxiety. I just would have been stuck with it for my whole life. We have to do a better job at, I don't know, being a little bit more serious about the people that we allow into our spaces. And it's not to say that you have to push people completely out, say bye to people, be rude to people, but it may mean that you need to move them to a circle that is further from your heart, further from your healing. And that's okay. Like, and maybe they'll come back. Maybe you saying, hey, look, we can't be super close in this season because I'm really trying to heal, will prompt them to go and get the healing that they need so you can invite them back into, a more intimate and close space to your heart. But it's important. It
I
is
that's
important.
so okay. So tell me, like, how do you? Because that idea of circles is something that I've thought about so much, and so hearing you say it, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, like someone else like thinks of this way.
Yeah,
How do you like have you like named some of the circles? Like, give us some examples of what different like levels we can invite
that's
people
great.
into, just so we can kind of think
Yeah,
through it.
absolutely. So I would say the closest, most intimate circle is probably called, it's going to be coined the intimate circle. And honestly, that's you and God. Like nobody else
Mm,
gets that. It's the most tender, fragile part of you. It's the part of you that you haven't told a lot of people about. It's the part of you that you haven't even been able to be honest about with yourself. Like there are just some parts of you that are just fragile. That's your intimate space. And that's you and God. Because if that relationship isn't right, you're not going to be the best version of yourself for other people, but also you won't even be able to see how you should be treated by other people if you don't know how to be in deep relationship with God. He lavishes in you. He loves you. He respects you. He gives you goodness. And when you cultivate that type of relationship with God, then you start to expect that from your friends and from your spouse and from everyone around you. The next circle out from that are your really close friends. These are the people that know things about you that everyone does not know. The things that you battle through, they can be your accountability people. We talk about that in counseling. We talk about having an accountability partner, being able to have someone that's like, hey, how's it going? I know counseling was probably really hard today. Can I take you out for coffee? What did you talk about? Do you feel comfortable sharing it with me? Those are the people that are literally in the trenches with you. And the people that are in the trenches have to be strong enough to carry you through. And there are people that are not. And those are your acquaintances. Okay. Those are the people. And honestly, there may be family too. I've had to transition some family in and out of circles as well that just weren't safe enough or ready enough to carry the weight of what I was going through as I was going through my healing journey. I didn't understand it, that frowned upon counseling, all the things, but I still love them dearly. Those are just, probably your sandwich friends. You just get to have like a little sandwich with them out and about. You aren't going deep on things. Y'all are just having a little coffee here and there and you keep it moving. And so yeah, even in the book we say even Jesus had circles. He had his close three to him. Then he had the other disciples. Then he had the masses. And if we want to be more like Jesus, then we need to get really good at having circles. Having
yeah,
circles.
yeah. What are some of the things that hold us back
Mm.
from getting the healing that we
Oh,
need?
number one, shame. Shame. The difference between shame and guilt really trips people up, but I think that if we begin to realize that there is a difference, it'll help us. Shame says that I am bad, while guilt says I've done something bad. If we can start to admit that we're guilty of things, we're guilty of road rage, we're guilty of being a little wild, of drinking too much, of yelling a little bit too much, of being too quick to anger. If we can start to admit, yeah, I'm guilty of that, and not allow it to attack our identity, I think we'd be more open to healing those parts. Think about how different it is to say, man, I'm really guilty of being quick to anger with my spouse and with my daughter. And I want to get better at that. I mean, what are some books? What are some resources? What counselor can I go to and talk about my anger and where that anger is coming from? How can I be more tender to that part of me that thinks that anger is a good solution? It's very different from saying, okay, I really hate my anger, but I don't want anyone to know about it. And I don't want people to call me this super angry person. And so, I mean, maybe they're wrong. They must be wrong. I don't want to sit in I mean, how embarrassing is it to go and sit in a counselor's office and say that I yelled at my kid, that I yelled at my spouse? That's shame speaking. That's saying I need to hide my brokenness. And we've got to do a better job at understanding the difference between shame and guilt. Toxic community is another thing. May have people in your life that just doesn't believe in, the healing journey. It's like, no, girl, you're fine. When you know that there's something in you that needs to be fixed. Okay. Toxic community can really hinder you from that. And there's just, a list of things, fear. Um, some of us, and this is going to sound really crazy, some of us are scared to feel pain. We do not want, when we go through our women's course with women all around the world, they hate step 2 because step 2 is story mapping. And that means you got to go back in your past and look at the things that broke you. And it is painful. It's painful for someone to say, I was molested when I was little and I don't want to go back to that. It's painful for someone to remember what their dad or mom said to them in the past or what happened to them in a relationship. We are scared to feel pain. But when we begin to embrace our pain and access the things that broke us, the quicker we get, the easier we get to a life of healing and wholeness. And that only happens when we're unafraid, you know?
Yeah. If you had, if you could go back and tell yourself something when you were totally in the thick of it, what
Mm,
would you tell yourself? And then if you could go back and give yourself a gift,
yeah.
what would you give yourself?
I I vividly remember the moments in my closet, at the bottom of the stairs, where I was just curled up in a ball, pleading for God to take the pain away. Like pleading. And I think I was I was begging God to take the pain away because I just didn't I thought that there would be an easier way. Like there just has to be an easier way. Like you can heal me, God, without the pain. Like it just has to be an easier way. I think I would go and whisper in that Tony's ear and say, it's the only way, but you're going to make it through. It's the only way. It's the only way, but you're going to make it through. It's going to get better, but you have to press into pain. You have to learn how to embrace it. And then I think if I were to give that Tony something, I would give her the freedom to ask for help.
Mm.
I think like maybe like a hall pass or something, like a little get out of jail free card, like to just continue to ask for help. I think that oftentimes the pain becomes unbearable in the healing process when we're alone, when there isn't a person that can say, I know that it's hard right now, but let's go get our toes done. I know that it's hard right now, but I got you some Jenny's ice cream, some gooey butter cake, and here you go. Okay,
Mm.
it's going to be okay. I think that younger Tony needed to know that there were people who actually wanted to walk with her through the healing journey, that she didn't have to do it alone, that there were people that would keep her safe and protected. And I wish I would have gotten there sooner. And so I would have given her the gift of the freedom to ask for help.
That's so good. Tony, just to kind of close out, would you take a second to pray for the women who are feeling really broken right now and
Mhm.
who are really looking for healing and hope?
Mm, I absolutely will. Um, God, we just invite you into this space now. For those that are watching and listening in the moment, whether they're in cars or doing nighttime routines for babies, cooking dinner, sitting on the couch, Starbucks, wherever they are right now, God, we just invite you in. We invite Jesus into this space and we invite the Holy Spirit into this space. And we just say, come and dwell with us. Come and dwell with us. And God, as you are here, Jesus, as you are here, Holy Spirit, as you are here, I just pray for the woman who's convinced that her brokenness discounts her. I pray that she would know it is not over. I pray that she would remember that you're coming after her, God. And you're not only coming after her, but you are ready to trade your power for her weakness, for her brokenness. God, I pray for the woman who's already started the healing journey and it sucks and it hurts. I pray that she would know that one, even though it's painful, it will get better. And two, she doesn't have to do it alone. God, I pray for the woman who have had to have some seriously tough conversations with people on their healing journey, that have had to sacrifice transitioning people into new spaces and leaving places and leaving relationships. And I pray for the woman that have been through so much transition. And I just pray witness over her. I pray that you would remind her that you are with her, God, hand in hand, step by step, that you are not the God at the end of the tunnel saying, get it all together and then I'll be down here waiting for you, but you are the God of the valleys, that you are lighting up our ways, and that you are with us. Healing come in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you,
Yay.
friend.
Hey.